Black Hills Playhouse was founded in 1946 by University of South Dakota drama professor Dr. Warren M. Lee. The dormitories were constructed by the Civilian Conservation Corps in 1933. The Playhouse opened on June 17, 1946, with plays presented in the Coolidge Inn on the grounds of the Game Lodge in Custer State Park. The current theater was built in 1955. Linda Anderson has held the position of executive director since 2010. Linda previously served as director of the Rapid City Arts Council at the Dahl Arts Center, where she managed the $7.5 million Dahl Arts Center Expansion in 2009. Anderson's belief that all people should have access to the arts, arts programs, and her vision for seeing the arts as a solution to strengthen and transform communities has made her an important part of South Dakota's cultural landscape. So, hey, thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
I'm
happy to be here.
Okay, so things have been kind of crazy the last year, especially for anybody involved in the performing arts, from like guys like me that like to go out and play guitar in bars and restaurants to, theaters and whatever. Can you give us an idea of like what 2020 was like? I mean,
yeah.
Was there a season in 2020?
No, there wasn't. Yeah. So, 2020 was such an interesting situation. I would never have imagined ever that all of our income streams would evaporate simultaneously. Right? So in March, early March, we approved a budget that was over $1 million. And by the end of March, we were already considering, I think in April, the beginning of April, the board met, and we decided for the first time in 75 years to cancel the season. So it was a big deal. And because of our other work educationally, which happens in schools all over South Dakota, everything stopped at the same time. So we basically had a 93% earned income loss in 2020.
So how does this, how did you manage to make it through to be here in 2021 with a playbill and a new space? And I mean, what did it take?
It was so interesting. I'm really lucky because I have a great team. I have a great team of people that work with me at the Black Hills Playhouse year round, as well as a board, a 25-member board. And they immediately got together. I think one of the most helpful things was the executive committee met with staff weekly from April until the end of the summer. I mean, we met every week and we talked about where we were, and we all brought our brains to the table to talk about what new funding sources were out there for disaster assistance. Probably the best thing ever was that board of directors right away made a pledge that they were going to keep everyone that they could employed. We did end up, through attrition, through people moving on, we ended up losing 4 positions, and we had to let go of over $200,000 in artist contracts for the summer. Broke my heart to have to do that. Yeah. But, in the end, it came down to, when we produce a season at the Black Hills Playhouse, it's about $600,000 to produce. And unless we have a pretty good sense that we have income, we would just be out of business if we can't open to the public. So, that decision, while hard, was necessary, or we wouldn't be here today.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those cases where, the Black Hills Playhouse has been helping artists for decades, and I'm assuming, we're all assuming, for decades and decades to come. So
Yeah.
it's like really the victory in the situation was just to keep things going.
Yeah,
And
and
be ready.
a lot of artists. We had a couple of virtual performances where artists from all over the country contributed their work to help support and keep us going. About 63% of people who had bought tickets for the season donated the value back to us, and that's what kept us going. So without something really unique, I think about the Playhouse, like we're in the Black Hills, we're in this tourist location, but 80% of our audiences are local to the Black Hills. So our community holds us up when there are problems. And a lot of theaters went out of business like forever this year, and
Right.
we weren't one of them.
Well, I mean, is the Playhouse privately owned, or is it a publicly, I mean, is it kind of supported more through grants and fellowships, or, I mean, was there a real danger that maybe the Playhouse wouldn't be back in 2021?
Yeah, there was. So we are a public-private partnership, which means USD has provided one position for all 75 years. So I am actually an employee of USD, and I am, everyone else is employed by the Black Hills Playhouse. So USD did its part by not letting me go, right?
Right.
And then, so our program money is all, we get it from earned income, through ticket sales, through concession sales, through, we have artists that go all over South Dakota and do residencies. And so that's all contract income through the South Dakota Arts Council, artists in schools and touring arts rosters. And so we have earned income. And then of course we fundraise every year. So we have an annual appeal. We do fundraisers. Basically, if you break it all down, everything that we do costs a little over $1 million in a good year. And of that, we have to raise about $100,000 a year to stay solvent. So we're always fundraising.
Okay. Right. I don't know, maybe I'm poking a little bit too much here, but like through ticket sales, do ticket sales largely cover that cost, or not so much?
At the Playhouse, it covers about 75% of the costs.
Okay.
We did in 2019, we actually had one show, Mamma Mia, that sold 99.9% of all seats.
Yeah.
And that year, 82% of our earned income was made up. But you can see, even in a blockbuster year, we keep our ticket prices as low as possible for the local community. And so we still have to do fundraising to make up the difference.
Right. And not every musical has an ABBA.
No.
Yeah. So you can't.
And we don't do all musicals either, So it's anyone's guess. Our shows usually average between 65% to 99.9% of attendance. In 2019, we had over 17,000 admissions sold that year. So it was a good one.
Okay. What were some of the big changes that had to be made this year?
This year?
That were made. I mean, like as far as maybe the performance space or.
Yeah. So the season was canceled, of course. So we would mitigate the risk. That was the big thing. What we had to do then over this year was look at, well, what can we do versus what can't we do? Mm-hmm. So for our educational programs, our artists went online and provided online and live Zoom experiences for different schools and communities. And as we're getting ready to open up now in 2021, in October, we decided to do a season that would all happen outside. So we're building, and we're in the process right now of building a new outdoor performing space called the New Frontier Theater. And it will debut in all of its glory
Yeah.
in June. And so, so really it's just an outdoor space, semi-shaded. It'll have folding chairs. Everyone needs to bring their pillows and,
Okay.
and a stage, you know, so, pretty, pretty rustic, but, I think actually seeing theater under the stars will be beautiful.
Oh yeah. I think it sounds like I don't know. It sounds really nice.
Yeah. And we chose shows that have small casts. We knew because of our housing situation that we would have to have a smaller company. So usually we'd hire about 70 people. This year we've hired 40. And so it's a much smaller company. The shows are all musicals and they have very small casts. I think the biggest cast is 6 people. And so, you know, it's a good group of shows that can be performed outside and will carry well. You wouldn't want to do anything, you know, like a murder mystery or something where everyone has to hear all the details. That might be hard in an outdoor venue, right? So,
yeah, will you be using, I mean, do you use any kind of amplification, or will there be any kind of, or did you find a natural?
Yes. Yeah. Hey, do you mind if I share my screen for a sec?
No.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. And hold on a second. And if you give me just a minute. So here we go. Can you see that? There you go. So in 2021, we're doing the Marvelous Wonderettes, which is it's a show that's just packed full of girl songs from the 50s and 60s. So it's just like there's a band up front, you know, that's amplified during the performance, and there'll be speakers at key locations. Lighting, of course, will be not as complex as it is in the theater and during matinees, right? You're not going to see lighting at all, but that's how we'll work that. I Love You, You're Perfect Now Change is, it's a hilarious review, and it's all about relationships and how people relate to each other. This is a show that was reworked in 2018, so we're doing a newer version. And then the last one is Altar Boys, which is a spoof on a Christian boy band. So there's a lot of boy band dancing and boy band like songs, and but all of these you can see are shows that will translate well into an outdoor performance because they're more like a concert. Right. So
okay.
I think it'll work out great.
Yeah, it sounds like fun. We're planning a trip down.
Good. Yeah.
Especially after getting our shots earlier this week. So
right.
Yeah. How are you doing?
Good. We you know, it's interesting because our company a lot of them are younger. So we're figuring that about a third that arrive won't have their vaccinations yet. So we're trying to figure out through a combination of rapid tests and also working with our locals how we can maybe get them vaccinated. But it's kind of a flip-flop from 2020. You know, we were all worried about old people, and now we're worried about the younger people who aren't vaccinated. So that's a thing we're giving a lot of thought to. We have some people who are mask resistant in our communities. And we have people that really believe masks are essential. So our seating area will actually have mask optional and mask required. And it's important because we need to protect these artists, because without the artists, I don't have anything, right? So people won't have a show to see if people get sick and we get closed down. So we have to be very careful. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
We'll find out.
Well, yeah. Okay. Do you have to pay extra for the either or? I'm not sure. Which...
No.
You
Here,
can charge more.
Let me just show you quick what it's going to look like. And we're still kind of working on this, but hold on a second. Okay. So the New Frontier down here. Oh, shoot. I took this off. God darn. I took the seating plan. I'm going to unshare. I took the seating plan off because, unfortunately, we have we have some changes that are happening to it, so I don't quite have it up yet. But basically, if you're at the snack bar, and most people know where the snack bar porch is, the seating area is right across from the snack bar porch, and it starts at the scene shop down at the bottom of the hill, and there's this natural rake that goes up. So there'll be seating, socially distanced seating in pods of 2 and 4 in the first half, and then in the back, which is about 60 feet back, is that right? 50 feet back from the stage. There are risers with chairs, and so that will be the mask optional seating there. And then we've got a section that's kind of mapped out for people that want to bring their own chairs or blankets. And of course there will be amplification, but that's all to be worked out when we get our artists on site, how it's going to work. And we have a lot to think about when it comes to protecting the equipment. How do we make that happen every day? What will have to come down versus stay outside and be covered, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So do you see anything positive out of this whole business?
Like the whole business of COVID?
Yeah, moving forward and all the difficulties you've encountered and had to overcome, in the last year.
Yeah. Some days I don't think that it's all bad that we had kind of a stop pause just to, first of all, think about how much we do appreciate performing arts. And, there's a lot of stuff that we all take for granted as far as how this works. So I think that's one thing is people, I think, will come back with a new appreciation. As far as the Playhouse, we're hoping that this outdoor seating is something that can be used for future events. Sometimes we have kids come over from our camps and they perform at the Playhouse. We have reunions and different kinds of events. Sometimes we have live music before a show. So I think that these spaces will be used again. Also, the concrete pad that we're pouring for this, that the stage will sit on, that will be extra workspace for our shops. So yeah, I think there's positive. Probably the most challenging thing is we took out a big SBA loan to be able to stay solvent through the year. And, so now we're in debt for the first time in 10 years. And, it's a generous loan. It goes over 30 years, but still I really like to not be in debt as an organization, and it will take a while. It'll take a while to recover from that. But positive, learning how to use Zoom, just for staff and board. I think we actually meet more than we did in person. And everyone's had like a tutorial. They know how to do it now. So.
Yeah, it's not really that scary.
No. And just the world of, it's funny, like what you can do online. My staff has gotten access to amazing kinds of training opportunities from Arts South Dakota, from the South Dakota Arts Council, from lots of different groups out there, things that we might not have had time to do in our regular schedule. So I think we're all smarter. We might be a little brain tired, but we're smarter.
Yeah, perhaps. What about some of the online programming that you've been developing? Do you see that sticking around, being part of it?
I do actually. I'm gonna share the screen again if you don't mind.
Oh, please do.
Now that I've, let me just so hold on a sec. There we go. So the Black Hills Playhouse. We do have actually there's a separate 501c3 called the Black Hills Playhouse Alumni Association. And they are doing a Zoom reunion this summer. And so one of the things they're doing is they are paying for a videographer to come in and do video of one of our shows. And they're going to test what that's like to be able to stream from the Playhouse. Don't know if that'll be an option in the future, but we're just doing a little test. Dakota Players, which is the touring outreach group that goes all over the state. it's been interesting because what they developed was something called a Zoom away camp. And so our artists made videos on different challenges. And so they would have acting, movement, and technical challenges each day. So the kids would get an email at the top of the day that would announce the theme. It would have all the video links in order for the kids to be able to watch. And then kids were invited to do activities and then film themselves and send them back to our artists. During the Zoom Away camp, they would have 2 Zoom campfires during the week. And so kids would share. We would create montages and things of all the beautiful work that came in and share it with kids. And I do think that some of this kind of programming will continue in the future. Sometimes there are schools that can't afford the full cost to have us send artists in. And so, or they don't have enough kids to participate. So I think that a lot of these things are going to go right into our, kind of our menu of things that we offer for the future. Well, I was just going to say one interesting project is we have a program called the Expanding Stage. And this is through partnerships of teaching artists work with adults and children with disabilities. And this is all about getting people with disabilities on the stage. And mainly this is focused in Sioux Falls, where we have an office in Sioux Falls. But right now we're working with a group that serves adults with disabilities called Dakotabilities. It's a day program for people with disabilities. And they're all rehearsing a show called The Missing Mountain Mystery. But because they can't meet in person, we're doing rehearsals in 9 group homes through Zoom. And so they do the rehearsals, then they film a portion of the play, and then my staff edits it all together, and then it's performed at the end of the experience after a certain number of weeks for family and friends. So when they did this in the fall, well, it would have been winter, there were like 150 people that attended online the final presentation. So all their friends and family from all over could see what they were doing. So again, we like to do things in person, but some of these things actually have made it easier to, well, none of it's easier, but have expanded our audiences. So I think some of these things will continue in some format.
Yeah, in a rural state like ours, I think that's a really important thing.
Yeah. And we think a lot, actually. We really think a lot about access. I don't often share my personal story with people, but, I actually lived in Brazil for a number of years, and I came back to South Dakota after a pretty tragic divorce, and where I lost everything I had, and I came back with my 2 little kids. And those years, I spent about 6 years getting back on my feet, and I really felt, like in my skin what it's like not to have access to things. And so a lot of what drives me personally is, arts shouldn't just be for people that have money. It's a part of our human expression. It's something that all people should get access to. Frankly, when I think about people with disabilities, I don't think I thought about that so much. Like, here's this enormous group of people who rarely get access. Right? And so a lot of our venues aren't created to give access in the way that they need. A lot of our stages aren't created. So we work really hard in our processes when we talk about how we do auditions and how we do rehearsals, to examine, what is it that we need to do to allow people to remove the barriers for people to get access. So that's a lot of our conversations in all of our programming at the Playhouse.
Yeah, that's great. I know my story isn't, well, I mean, just growing up, having, I don't know, being kind of an arts-minded guy, being more into music and, visual arts growing up in a small, on a hog farm in southeastern South Dakota. I don't know.
Right?
I always felt like I had to catch up, you know, like I still
Uh-huh.
feel like I'm catching up,
I know, and
you
it's so
know?
amazing. You know, I have four boys, and they're all creative people, and I just watch at their age the access they have through the
Oh
internet
man.
just to, you know, they can immerse themselves from A to Z in all kinds of art, and that's such a lovely thing. You know, when I was growing up, you kind of had what was right in front of you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can see shows that are happening in Midtown Manhattan. You can see,
Hmm.
you can go to MoMA, go to San Francisco through the internet. It's not quite like
Yeah,
being there. I mean, but it's
yeah,
still, I mean, amazing
yep,
to
it
me.
is. Yeah, I
Um,
think this is a marvelous age for the arts.
okay. Well, hey, that was great. Did we miss anything?
Oh, I don't think so.
Anything that we need to discuss? How about the
Yeah,
5K fundraiser? Do you want to?
yeah. So the 5K fundraiser is actually happening. It starts next week, April 11th through the 18th. Our goal is to raise $30,000 to help with a lot of the extra costs that are coming up. You know, we've got PPE and all the different kinds of arrangements to create the outdoor stage and equipment needs, that kind of thing. Right now, we're at about 23,000 raised, and so we hope to hit that 30,000, and that's just another part of keeping us solvent this year. So people can go out to blackhillsplayhouse.com, just click into the logo, and it talks about the race.
Okay.
Register and come out and support. Well, it's virtual, so people can race any way they want, and there's lots of prizes, and
No
it's going to
excuses.
be fun. No
All right.
excuses, right?
And I'll put the link in the video description below.
Cool.
So be sure to check it out. All right. Well, hey, this was great. I enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Was really awesome to have you. I'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.